the nature of, I don't know. I mean, I use my kids a lot, but my 15-year-old, when I look at the minutes on her phone compared to the number of online, the new generation and younger people, and I mean, even older people, anyone, like just having your computer accessible, just like we saw with the hurricanes and everything, 24-hour news, people just want what they want when they can get it. So it, like you said, doesn't have to be the end all and be all, but having a presence, you are probably going to miss out on some opportunities if you don't have that.
I love that. Chris, let's talk about some tactical things. Talk about platforms. What are some of your favorite platforms that you think what are some of your favorite either social media platforms? So let's kind of go through, Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest and blah, and all of the other ones that really no one's heard of, but some people maybe use. What are your opinions on those, and what do you really strongly suggest that people focus on the most?
Just with the success of, being pet centric, for us, we always recommend Facebook as number one, right? Facebook has a different level of targeting. It operates as both a social network and an advertising platform, and it allows you to kind of identify customers that you need to. Look, when we came into the American Kennel Club, they had 25 years of revenue decline. Within 1 year, we turned that around and had the first growth year. We did it through two tactics. We did it through search engine optimization, and we did it through Facebook. We made sure that the AKC ranked number one for every single breed specific page, right? So you typed in Golden Retriever, the first search result would be the AKC. And we drove that also through social, reaching kind of a newer audience and sort of softening their approach, right? So that was kind of a two-tactic approach that ultimately resulted in about $15 million of revenue for the bottom line by streamlining that. And that was because we were sitting with a team of 6 people. So there was no way 6 people could spread themselves across tactics. And the hardest thing for us was being strong enough to the rest of the executive team to be like, why aren't we on Snapchat? Why aren't we on Pinterest? Why aren't we focusing on LinkedIn and stuff like that? And it wasn't where our audience was. So Facebook, if you look at it, specifically, most people's news feeds are covered in pets, they're covered in food, and they're covered in kids, right? So that you have that built-in dynamic. And also it is the one platform that goes beyond base level demographics, right? Instagram, really sort of grew up with what we would class as Generation Alpha, kind of people sort of sub 25 is the basis there. Snapchat is, similar segment. So Facebook gives you that opportunity to reach much more people across much more spectrums, and it allows the what we call sort of behavioral characteristics. What's great is you're able to target on the basic demos of, targeting people in the right age group, in the right location, but you're also able to filter in, do they love dogs? Do they like these products? And that gives for such a high level targeting, Facebook and Google.
So Janice, what do you think? Do you think that, how do you manage that same discussion point with organizations, rescue organizations, and this would be the same thing again for for-profit companies that can't afford to do paid advertising or SEO work? How can you make up for that? What are some tactics to make up for the lesser budget that people may have, or that
I'm listening to Chris, like only 6 people. I mean,
I know. Well,
so organizations would be like, dying for 6 people dedicated to
we got after year 1, they gave us 34 people, and that's when it.
Well, hence the 15 million revenue.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I just feel like doing what you know best, because you're not going to keep it up when you are spread thin. Even Instagram, to me, it's so easy. Post a picture, do that, but to do it every single day and to find something, and then on top of something else. So I guess really just not picking everything. I think it's better to do one super hard and heavy than, every few weeks pop up on something, because you want to gain that momentum. You want to get the fans going. I mean, I agree. I think Facebook for the generation that you're looking at who are old enough to, adopt pets, and, even seniors who are looking, baby boomers, almost everybody has some kind of Facebook presence, even if they don't go on too often. Twitter can be confusing to people even sometimes. I mean, we have Twitter parties. I'm still not exactly clear how that works.
Can someone tell me what a Twitter party is? Because I still also don't know. Blog Pause
Yes,
does.
we had a lot of our cat
Chris
focus.
is smiling, by the way.
So people like to have Twitter parties, and thank God I have an editor who really loves it and understands it. Which again, that's another thing. Find the person in your organization who is great at it. You know, Laura, our editor, is great at Twitter. She gets it. She does it. You know, that's not my thing. Facebook for us is easy. For me is easier, different things. And I would say, again, just, you know, if Pinterest, if you've been on there forever and that's your thing and you love photos, I mean, there's so many opportunities. And I think doing some kind of outreach. So hopefully, like, you know, an e-newsletter, which when you're building it up, I think there's a lot of free services if you don't pass a certain threshold.
Well, let's actually talk about some of those free services. Chris, I'll throw that to you. What are some good e-newsletter platforms that you'd recommend?
On the e-newsletter, we're big fans of MailChimp and a company called Klaviyo, Klaviyo. Stuff like...
Say that again, Klav. IYO. Okay.
Yeah, it was built originally to plug into a lot of e-commerce platforms like Shopify and Spree. So it actually can pull all of your customer data in automatically and update it as people change. So, you know, I'm a big fan of that. I think, you know, one of the great points Janice made was, I think, you know, the biggest thing that we sort of recommend to people is focus on outputs rather than inputs, right? That's where people get bogged down. If you think like, right, I have to post 4 times today, you know, you end up posting stuff that's no quality, that's not doing anything. And you're better to just think of like, what are we trying to achieve with the post? And do one post maybe 2 or 3 times, you know, 2 or 3 times a week.
Hold on, wait. I want to just make sure I understand something. You said something and I didn't land right in my ear, so I want to make sure we clarify. You said focus on outputs, not inputs. Is that what you said?
Yeah, you know.
Talk about that.
Just everything in marketing has to be about the end result, right? And the end result is customers. Like, is what you're doing giving you the customers? Is it giving you the growth? And sometimes too many people make the mistake of thinking about a tactic. So they say, right, we have to do Facebook. And then they assume this of like, right, we have to post 4 times a day. Then we have to, you know, that doesn't work. So it's like, let's go up to 6 times a day. And so, you're doing work that doesn't deliver anything. It doesn't deliver an output.
So what would you consider, okay, so when you say outputs and inputs, so input would be actually the content you're putting into one of these channels, right? And what would be the output? Or am I, again, maybe I'm getting too, I just want to understand.
Yeah, take the rescue as an example, right? If you have an adoptable dog that you're looking to place a home, then that gives you something to do, right? That gives you, right, we have to find this dog a home. So now let's use social media to do that. So building the social media campaign around getting that result is going to give you more success than you saying, right, we have a social media person who has to do 4 posts a day and they've lost focus on what they're trying to achieve. And instead they're focusing on, hey, I have a job and I must fulfill that job.
It's the quantity over quality. It's a quality over quantity is what you're talking about. Absolutely.
It's about success. You know, like back in the day, my first job ever was posting billboards, right? We post billboards to get people to go into shops. You didn't, you know, a company didn't pay for a billboard unless they thought it was going to get people to come into their shop. So you have to go back to that kind of mantra. And instead of doing what everybody's doing, just because they're doing it, you have to do it because it's right for your business. And
no, go ahead, please. I'm interrupting. I'm so excited about the next question.
That has to be the goal. You know, I think marketing has become overly complicated, particularly with digital. And you have to step back and just look at it like, why are we doing marketing? You may not need to do marketing. If you have great foot traffic for your, you know, your grooming salon and people just come in, or you have enough client base, you end up not doing marketing. Like for us in our agency now, we get so many referrals that we don't market anymore. It doesn't make sense because you're turning people away. So you slow that side of your business down. You know, I used to write 3 or 4 blogs a week and send them to Forbes and Inc. and all these places to try and drive business, and it didn't do anything for us. So you have to go back to that level to really focus on what you need to do.
So what do you think then, taking from that point, what are the biggest mistakes that you see made? I'm going to ask you for the for-profit feedback, just kind of bullet points, top couple bullet points that you see businesses make as it relates to social media that you see as a problem that you know is an easy fix, or maybe could be an easy fix?
The biggest one is doing work for no reason, right? You know, it's that kind of, we have to do 3 posts a day, and they have no idea what the third post should be, so they post something that's completely irrelevant. People look at it and they're like, this isn't for me. You know, that turns a lot of people off. You know, we had a great question there as well. You know, the other bigger issue is, you know, someone asked me what the benefit of social media agencies or freelancers are. And that's another point. People think that they have to do social media. So they go out and they spend money on stuff that isn't necessarily for them. You know, because a lot of us in the pet space, you know, our business isn't necessarily digital. You know, it's moving into an element of digital. But some of us can you know make our money just by dominating that local side and continue to do what we do. So that's always the biggest mistake we see. You know, people spreading themselves too thin, and trying to do work that's ultimately not trying to drive a result.
Thanks. That's really super helpful. Jay, what do you say?
I think specifically with the rescues, I kind of touched on it before, but having as much information as possible. So, you know, don't say email for an application when it's going to take, you know, a lot of the rescues are people who, you know, are volunteers. They have another job. If you know it's going to take 2 days to reply to someone, then they're looking at 10 dogs or 5 dogs, you know, just put the application online so someone can download it and get it to you quickly. So trying to avoid, you know, a step. I think something that Chris touched on too about, you know, looking where I can see that it definitely has benefits of, like, you know, looking at what someone's doing and copying them. Don't just copy someone, like you said, Chris, too, like because they're doing 4 times a day. Put out things that make sense for your market, that, you know, most of you guys in rescue are promoting pets. So photos, people want to see like the cute, you know, not the photos of the dog, like right when they're in the cage and they're scared, but take them outside, put them behind some green grass, take the cats, you know, maybe out of their crate. Just, you want to make them look as great as possible. So having as much information about the animal, so that you just want to avoid questions going back and forth, because that just eats up time. It eats up resources. It makes it harder. I think sending too quickly, again, I've gotten things where for an event, you know, free promoting events is amazing. Online Facebook events is great, but don't send your email and then 5 minutes later, you know, I've gotten a retraction with, oops, like wrong date. I mean, it happens to everybody. I get it. But before you click, yes, I sent, you know, send, have someone else look at it. I mean, I've looked at things a million times, editor, and then somehow we're like, how did we not see this? So getting fresh eyes, even if it's someone that doesn't understand the content, just looking through. But you don't want to send a retraction. And I think also just sending too many things, you know, and like the self-promotion. You want to self-promote, but you want to make it really useful. So I find with newsletters I get every day, there's, you know, stores that send me coupons every single day. I just end up, I don't even open them, or I just delete them right away. You don't want to become something that someone's just going to say, oh, I've seen it. It's the same information. It's the same. So be relevant. That's really the bottom line. Make it useful for the audience that you're, you know, want to attract.
Okay, so I want to just bring something up. Something I hadn't even thought about. Oh, sorry, Chris.
Oh, no, just thanks, Jim. Just good.
Yeah.
The other one we say to everybody is don't be afraid to fail, right? I think too many people go in there with this kind of concept of like, right, you know, this has to be perfect. This has to be really on brand. And I always give people the story of my challenge, the big challenge they laid out at the American Kennel Club was for us to get to 1 million social fans in 9 months. And sort of 4 months in, we'd gone from 90,000 to maybe 105,000. So I'm sitting there thinking, look, we're definitely getting fired, because we were just posting pictures of show dogs. You know, here's the dog that won the Toledo Kennel Club, you know, best in breed this week. So we took a risk and we started posting people's pets. And the first picture I posted was of one of the ladies on our team's dog. And the next thing you know, you see all this interaction. That looks just like my dog. Hey, isn't it cool? The American Kennel Club are now talking to us and not talking, you know, down to people kind of thing. And the next thing you know, you go from 115,000 to 200,000, and we're like, right, we're on to something. And we learn through that, try and fail. And I think that's ultimately what you have to do in this business.
So I have a comment about, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, and it's actually very relevant to a recent experience I had with social media and rescue, and didn't even dawn on me until you were just talking, Janice. And Janice, you probably a little bit know my story because we are friends and you knew what was going on. So just humor me as I tell you my tale of woe and how I think it is a reflective commentary on this discussion about social media use in the nonprofit sector. Probably can glean some learnings for for-profit, but this is specific about an experience I had with rescue. So here I am, nice person, somewhat of a pet connoisseur, pet a lot of dogs, I take care of them. I'm a pretty good, bet if you want.
Good pet mom.
I'm a pretty good dog mom, right? As my dogs are laying here at my office after they just got done eating their, $80 bag of dog food breakfast and going to the vet tomorrow. Anyway, you all get where I'm going. So I had put a post up on Facebook maybe a month ago, something. We lost one of our dogs. We lost a collie about 2 months ago, went through the grieving process, quickly realized that we wanted to add a second dog to our home. And I love big dogs. I have a collie. I've had collies. But I really wanted my LWD, my little white dog. And, doesn't matter the color, but I love little dogs. And I always want to have one. So, hey, everybody, putting it out there. I'm looking for a little dog. Here are the different pieces. They need to be, 10 pounds around. They go with kids, cats, and rats, because those are the folks, those are the occupants of our home. There's the collie right now. How dare that construction worker walk past the window? And hold on, Mims. Okay, see what good dog trainer I am. Anyway, I put this up there, and immediately, as you can imagine, a lot of my great friends who know somebody in rescue started posting and sharing and helping me to find this dog. I will tell you that it was one of the most frustrating and harrowing experiences that I've gone through as a dog owner, to the point where I really wanted to rescue. I mean, that's where my heart is. I'm not against people who who purchase dogs from a reputable breeder. I love my breeder friends. I love my purebred friends. I have collies that I did get from rescue, but I get the purebred thing so much. I'm certainly an enthusiast in that way. However, I couldn't find a rescue dog. It was what I found happening, Janice, and tell me if you think this is just my experience or if you think this is a mistake that I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of venting now. I feel like this is like a little therapy. Just, again, bear with me. So what ends up happening is that rescues spend a lot of time on social media. And I think a lot of resources on social media, posting dogs and telling these heartfelt stories and oh my goodness. But what ended up happening is that people weren't getting back to me for days or even, to be honest, weeks. I would put an application in or I would submit something on that post about a dog and no one would get back to me. And so I feel like the issue for social media and rescue is actually more about kind of what Chris was talking about earlier. And maybe it's not the right terminology, but the output or the input, meaning if you're going to put something out there and this goes for both sides, whether it's the digital, whether it's the for-profit or nonprofit, but if you're going to take the time to make a post about something you're looking to sell, in this case, place a homeless animal, I think it's also just as important to do a good follow-up process, to really take seriously the folks that are saying, is this dog still available? What do I need to do to meet this dog? Or is your daycare open on Thursdays after 7 p.m.? Whatever it is. But that social listening piece and that responsivity piece, to me, that feels like the most important thing in social media. And I know we haven't talked about it yet, but this feels like a good time to address that. So that's my story of woe, but I want to throw that out to you guys and see if you also see that same mistake being made. And if this is probably not the first time you're hearing a story like this.
I think with rescue, it's a little different. And you and I did talk about this. I also think on the person who's looking for a dog, you need to give yourself a little more time than, 3 days or 2 weeks. Like, I want to have this dog. So you do need to go into it knowing that the right dog will find you and you will find the right dog or cat or rat or whoever you're adopting. But I think it's important for the rescues, something as simple as an auto reply. If you would have gotten an auto reply that you can put on many different platforms and features, saying, thank you, we received your application. Sometimes it takes us 2 to 3 days to get back to you. We're all volunteers, just so that there's some acknowledgement. Yes, we received your communication. We will get back to you. And like what Chris was saying before and what we've talked about, just your website needs to be functional. Like, what are you trying to achieve? So you are trying to connect with people who are going to foster, who are going to rescue, who are going to tell other people about animals you have. So, posting while it's adorable, posting 58 times on Instagram may not be the best way, especially since Instagram, now I think it's changing a little, but you can't even really click on a link from there. You have to change your bio, and now I think there's ads that you can do. But, so having something where you can communicate with those people easily. Like I said, having the application online, get everything you need from the person first, so that when you're looking at them, you're not saying, oh, we're missing your XYZ, or, oh, your landlord has to, whatever it is, just, it needs to be functional. So remember what the goal of your social media is. It's not always about having the most followers, but having great interactions, with the people that you want to be in touch with.
Thanks. Chris, what about you? Thoughts on that?
You guys touched on the two big points, and to go to the higher level of the space, it's why we need unity, right? It's why you need the purebred and the rescue world to work together, because the messaging you see on the purebred world is all about the responsible breeder and the education, right? Is this the right kind of dog for you? And that's something that the rescues have shifted to, right? Because as they've started to change their messaging around, they've started to see that it's about placing dogs in the right homes. And I think that's where, when those two elements of the education works well with the emotional persuasive pull of, here's this dog, it's right for me, ultimately that's where we all have to educate the consumer. Like, I've been guilty of it, where, I've worked with rescues now, as I've moved on, and I see these heartfelt stories, and I want to rescue them. Yet I have golden retrievers who are very sensitive, and bringing new dogs into the home, it's not the right thing for me to do. It's better for me to find someone else to take that. And I think that's where it's important that everybody kind of works together on that. What is the right dog for you? And because the right dog for you is also makes you the right person for that.
Excuse me. All right. Well, this has been a really fun part of the conversation. I hope it wasn't a downer. I just feel like if we're talking about social media, we should talk about real life issues that come up for the consumer. And I would say in this case, just my story, I was a consumer, and I think that other consumers have this issue as well. So if you even as a for-profit company and you're looking to engage your consumer through social media, having that back and forth element is super important. So talking about elements, we'll start with this. If you have a little bit of money and you are already using social media, you already have done all of the things, kind of the big picture things that you two have been touting this morning, what would be the next level tool that you would recommend? So let's just go with this. Let's just assume that we have a fairly active, good frequency of Facebook posting. Let's say we have, somewhere between 2,500 and 5,000 followers, which I know would actually be a pretty decent number, but somewhere in that midst. We have a Twitter account. We've got a couple thousand followers there. We post there occasionally. We do a couple posts on Instagram. So we're kind of using those three main channels pretty well. And even we'll throw in that we do a newsletter sometimes. What would be the next level, or the next piece that you would throw in, which would be a low cost but potentially high yield tool for social? Chris, what would be your number one go-to tool for that? Or is there one? Maybe there's a different piece of advice you have.
One of the ones we recommend is trying to get into social media automation. We use a tool called Meet Edgar. At the minute, it's about $50 a month. But what it allows you to do is schedule all your posts quite a bit in advance across Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms, because that frees you up quite a bit. Like I see my wife on her Meet Edgar every sort of Sunday night, scheduling out all of her posts. So then it means all she has to do is the social listening and reach out. She's got a real estate business where she's sort of gearing up to launch. So it's literally her and one other person at the moment. So, I think looking for those ways to kind of streamline your workflow, and again, streamline the amount of input that you're having to put into it. Social media is not a success if one person is having to spend 8 hours a day doing stuff that's not giving tangible return on investment, right? If you have one person doing that and you're seeing like we had at the AKC where you're seeing millions of dollars coming back in, it's worth it, right? We originally had one person dedicated to that we could tangibly show she brought in over $1 million worth of business. So that was great ROI, and I think that's what, you have to look at it in those terms. So automating and using those tools usually allows you to kind of free up a lot of your time.
That's an awesome suggestion. FetchFind uses Meet Edgar, and it's just a really good tool. I'd also say that that there's the mailman here, legitimately. Hold on. Mimsy! Mims, come here! Not happening. Sorry. Give me. Linda, can you grab Mims for me?
What's the benefit of small dogs? Small dogs, small bark.
I know. But also, she's not barking yet. I'm hoping that she's not going to pick this up for Mimsy, because that would be a real shame. And the funny thing is that Mimsy used to not be a barker, but who taught her to bark? Whisper. So Whisper died and left this, just bestowed this upon Mimsy. Listen, I'm going to go. But before I do, let me just tell you one thing I'd like you to carry on for me and do it really well, which is to bark. Although collies are known to be big barkers anyway. Not this one though. Okay. So Meet Edgar is awesome. That's what I was saying. Meet Edgar is a great platform, and we use it at FetchFind, and it's also owned by a woman. It's founded by a woman named Laura Roeder, and she's awesome as well. So way to go with the Meet Edgar suggestion, Mr. Walker. Janice Brown, what say you?
I think that if you're, kind of where you described, that the next easy, and again, this was not easy 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but video. You can, with your iPhone now, start Facebook Live, and, it alerts your followers if you're signed up a certain way. People just like it. They like the spontaneity of it. They like the information. They like that they can be somewhere with you at an event. Walk through the kennel, show a dog or a cat interacting with somebody, taking a treat, doing tricks, anything that's going to make you a little bit different. So, I'm working on an event totally outside of my pet life with a woman who wrote a book called Own Your Own Glow. And, she talks about how everyone has their own brand of magic. So just because something's been done before, it's never been done the way that you're going to do it. So I think by video, the way that we're interacting is not going to be the same as another webinar that you've seen on social media, because it doesn't have us on it, so there's always going to be something, and the way that someone speaks is going to resonate with somebody differently than someone else. Or they might see a photo of a dog and think, kind of whatever. And then they see the dog in action and they're like, oh my God, that's the cutest dog I've ever seen. I need to get it. Or I know exactly the perfect person for it. So I think that little bit of interaction and reality, if you will. God knows everyone loves a good reality show. So, the more drama and fighting and slapping you can have on there, the better. No. Kidding. No dog fighting. I'm totally kidding. So, I think that video is something like you and I have talked about for years about doing video, and it was going to cost X amount of money and this much, and it's gotten easier and smaller and more accessible. So take advantage of it because it's super cool.
So here we have, a bunch of people just threw some stuff up here. Post cron and buffer for automation. Chris is nodding his head, so that means that he may be easy. Are you approving or are you familiar, or is that both?
I'm approving and familiar, yeah, but big fan of both of those, particularly with buffer is great as well.
All right, so thanks, Laura. And then Melanie's saying that she would add PicMonkey to that for great ROI for social, great graphic capabilities, easy to use, and no need for expensive Photoshop. Those are two fabulous, or actually 3 fabulous additions. I love the audience participation. That's awesome, really helpful. What do you think? It's getting down to the wire here. 12:27. Wait, let me see. Hold on. There's also add Canva to that. I like Canva. Yeah, that's cool. See, these are all great tools, guys, that you can increase the quality of your social. All right. So on that, before we go, Chris, one last big, just, hey guys, just do this and it'll make your life easier comment. Anything that you feel like is just something you've seen, anything that you just read. Oh, Hootsuite is also free for smaller businesses. Thanks, Ash. Anything that you just feel like if you were the king of social media for the world of the pet industry, what's the one thing, or maybe there isn't something that you'd love to see made better or added?
That's a tough one. No, I think I think for me, what I would love to see is the larger entities really take on the educational point of view, because I think the more education there is out there, the more it takes us back to the ultimate. It's about your relationship with your pet, right? And on all of us as pet businesses starting out or growing, we're trying to amplify that, and we're trying to provide services that are part of the life cycle. You know, for me, it's the life cycle of my dog, right? Like, I want to give my dog the best that throughout his life, and then that cycle will repeat as I have, 2, 3, 4 dogs. So I think if the bigger entities could take on the educational components of those, if they can tell us what's the best, dog food, how many times I should get my dog groomed, how great socialization is and why doggy daycares are great, that would make it easier for all of us. And then that would allow us to kind of do what we need to do and just kind of get people into our individual businesses at the right time. So that's the thing that I'm sort of advocating for. That's what I tried to bring to the American Kennel Club, and now I'm trying to bring it to more people.
So obviously, that was not a paid endorsement, folks, but obviously that is our entire reason that FetchFind exists, is that we think that, the way we can support the pet industry best, this is not a plug, it just is what it is, that we can support the pet industry by providing that education that each pet business then can take, each of our customers can take, and throw back out there to the world in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a handout at the front desk or it's a post about, hey, do you know that when a dog yawns, like my dog did a few moments ago, that's called a calming signal. I learned that at FetchFind, of course, and so now I'm going to pass that along to you. So if you see your dog yawn when you're holding your little dog close to your face like this and they go, it means that they're a little stressed. So how about give them some space, put them down. That right there, it's a valuable piece of information. It's relevant. It makes your audience's life better with their pets, and it certainly has a huge impact on each particular pet's life. So I love that you said that, Chris. I totally agree. That's our entire mission. My entire life's work is all about what you just said. So yes, if we can see more education about pets in social media, I think that everyone wins. Janice, to you.
Well, speaking directly to rescues, I think it kind of goes back to what we said in the beginning. Who are you? Why are you here? And what are you doing? So that two-way communication, because all you're trying to do is get information out. If you have events, put as much information as you can, the time, the date, where, especially Tails goes through, we list free events for all shelters and rescues. And occasionally we're looking for some. And if I go to your website and it's not all there, then I have to send an email, I have to wait back. I have to, so many people are so great at just putting it all out there. If you have the dogs available, explain the process, let people know what's going to happen. That's the reason you exist on social media, is to get your dogs, cats, whatever, adopted. So focus on that first. Make sure that is working. Make sure you have an auto reply. Make sure that there's somebody who, 24 hours is about the window. I had a much different experience online. We found our second little guy through Pet Finder, and it all happened, fairly quickly. I got in touch with the foster mom, and it was amazing. We started, sharing pictures on social media. I went to her Facebook. She had a little album for him. And that was another thing. She was just a foster mom, not, connected. She didn't have to use the Facebook for the group. Foster Pet Outreach, great group. And she just had a little album with all of his photos. So then I could start looking at them and sharing them. And it just do the basic things for what you want to accomplish, which is really, in this case, communication. And you don't have to be perfect. Like Chris said, you don't have to get back in 5 minutes if you're doing something else, but just let people know, acknowledge that you got it, and give them easy ways to do as much as possible online. So you're not using your resources to repeat and duplicate efforts, where you don't need to.
That's great. I love that. And I think that you just summarized it well. So a couple things. It's 12:32 Central Time. So we always make a commitment that we're going to really, really respectful to your time. We love that you've been here with us. So I'm going to do an official thank you and moment of gratitude towards my friends and colleagues and guests today. Chris Walker, of CMO of Retaliate First. And of course, my good friend, Janice Brown, Chief Everything Officer, and founder of Tails Media and Tails Pet Magazine. Yeah, it's been great. We really appreciate. We've had a lot of people show up today. We had a lot of registrants. We tapped out. In fact, we topped out. So there was a wait list, which was really fun for us. And of course, I do want to really thank our sponsors, which happens to be, like I mentioned at the top of the hour, PetSmart's Grooming Academy, which is a great place talking about being a pet industry entrepreneur and looking to work with pets. We do think that PetSmart offers an incredible program and really have been very impressed and continue to support them, and they love us. And so they sponsored our webcast today, which is kind of a win-win for everybody. To that, so here's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do an official thank you. Love this. This was amazing. I feel like we could do this every day and we'd learn new things because obviously these folks are totally incredible and helpful and really just depth of knowledge and experience that, I don't know, to be so lucky to be able to tap into that has just felt really good for me. And I really hope it's been great for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to hang out for a little while longer. There's some questions that have popped up in the Q&A. And so we will address those questions. We won't stay around too much longer, but I do want to give a chance to answer some questions. If you have some more, please feel free to go ahead and jot them down either in the chat area or through the Q&A thing. I'm kind of tempted, I don't know, what do you guys think? I'm kind of tempted. We have a functionality here that we can go live to Facebook at any moment with a little click of live on Facebook piece. Do you guys think we should do that? Or do you think that would be just not necessary? Do you think that we have anything more to say that we can go on live on Facebook and just say, putting some things out there? I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with it. Whatever, I'm done. Let's try it out.
All right, we're gonna do a live. All right, here we go. We're gonna do a live test for live on Facebook. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Hold on, folks.
Oh my God, my computer just exploded. I'm just kidding. Don't push the button.
Oh yeah. Hold on. Here we go. Go live now. Let's see. Hold on.
Oh, webinar is now streaming live on Facebook.
Wow, it is?
Mission accomplished, Miss
Holy cow, that's amazing. All right, so we've just decided here. Okay, so here's what just happened. Wow, it is?
Mission accomplished, Miss
Holy cow, that's amazing. All right, so we've just decided here. All right, there we go. That was really loud. I opened up my Facebook by accident and that just was there. So hold on here. So here's what we just decided. Are you all here still, I hope? You're here, right? All right. So hi, everybody. Jamie. How you doing? So we just had an incredible hour-long webinar, webcast. What do you call this? Whatever you call it, webinar, webcast. So FetchFind just hosted a 1 hour long webcast all about social media for pet professionals, pet businesses, and animal rescue organizations. And we had two amazing guests. They are still here, of course. Chris Walker. What up, Chris?
Hey.
Second time you can say hey. And then Janice Brown. Hey, so just quickly, if you're tuning into Facebook Live, for those of you who have been here, we have a lot of attendees who have been hanging out with us, and we decided when the thing was over that we would go to Facebook Live and just test this out and have some fun, and maybe share some information for folks who weren't able to make it to the webcast because it did sell out. And so we thought we would go live and offer a couple of tips, answer some questions live, and just have fun that way. And also, I have Sassy here, so we'll show Sassy again. So Chris Walker, who's in New York, is a chief marketing officer for an organization, digital agency called Retaliate First. Real quickly, Chris, I won't make you go into this too much, but his background is as a VP of marketing, digital strategy of the American Kennel Club, the AKC. So he's got some cred, massive street cred, and he just spent the last hour talking about kind of best practices for social media for pet pros, and it was amazing. To below me, I don't know if it shows up below on you guys, but
Like, hi.
Hi, Janice. Below me is a dear colleague and friend, Janice Brown, who's the founder and chief of everything officer at Tails Magazine. I know you don't call yourself that, but I feel like it's good. And Janice has been doing digital before digital was cool, kids. Really, she started her magazine 16 years ago.
17 years.
17.
Turn of the
So
century.
Tails Magazine. Exactly. So for those of you in Chicago, you all know Tails Magazine. Janice is the founder and continues to drive that mission forward. And Janice's magazine is built to, obviously, as an advertising mechanism for great pet businesses to connect with pet owners, but also the mission that she developed when she created the magazine back before there was social media was about supporting rescues and connecting people to the rescue community as well. And so we've had a lot of really great discussions over the last hour about all of those things around how to help rescues get their dogs adopted, how to help pet businesses find great customers, and how to use social media in a really meaningful way. And so here we are. That's a sum by and large. So I'm sure there's a way that people can ask questions while this is live on Facebook, but since I don't really know how to use that functionality yet, we're just testing this out and having fun with it today, then let's answer the questions that the attendees of our seminar today asked. So here we go. I'm going to read a question out loud. This is for, I believe, Chris and Janice as a general question, which is it a good idea to mix up your digital content? For example, I like that you gave an example, by the way. For example, sharing posts of general interests, posts promoting your businesses, and then posts that interact with your customers. Do I post each proportionately? I don't want to inundate my audience with sales posts. By the way, I don't know who asked that. It just says it was a anonymous poster or from the attendees today, but that is an incredible question. And by the way, something that we talk about here at FetchFind all the time. So Chris, please lay it on us. What are your thoughts to that?
I think it's a great idea, particularly as we were talking about how important education is. So I think, not to give you the plug on FetchFind, but taking posts from like the Fetch blog and stuff like that is going to be great, because that shows an authority that has expertise and it still has relevancy to your business. I think the one thing we always recommend, right, is like social, people have a feed and you want to see things that you're engaged in. A good day on socials when you scroll through your feed and everything is cool and really relevant. So as long as you're providing some value, I think it's great to mix things up.
Okay. Is there such a thing, just quickly to that question, Chris, is there such a thing as just, all right, I know you guys sell great leashes, I'm sick of it. Does that happen? And then when that happens, how do you know if that's happening?
What you'll see is you'll start to see that your posts are getting less engagement, right? So typically people will say, I don't want to see any more of this. And then you start to see the lack of engagement. That's how you can kind of know that you're sort of over posting. I think mixing it up is good, and treat the people that are reading your content as a fan base. Give them, the art is to keep giving them more, keep them excited. Keep them hoping that you're going to post something new.
Okay, great. Janice Brown.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's something I've been saying the whole time is just do what's working for you, do what feels good, do what's your niche, so especially when you're posting animals, you want to not just talk about, what dogs are available, but there's going to be questions about when I bring a pet home, how do I introduce them to my pets? How do I switch their food? How do I, come on Tails. We have so much content. Share our story. There's a million places. So, put something out that is going to be useful to the end user, and then they're going to keep coming back for more. If it's constantly, it's just like being in person with someone. If I'm just sitting there talking about myself the whole time, you're just going to tune out and think about your shopping list. So, talk to the customer, have the customer we have contests, we have some interactive things. And like Chris said, then you don't be afraid to fail. Some of it's going to work, some of it's not going to work. But if you don't try it, you're not going to know. And like he said, you might happen upon something that you didn't even think of that was kind of like a fluke, and it brings the most people. Whatever's authentic to you, that's what people are going to resonate with, and that's what they're going to hear, and that's what they're looking for. It's not just a formulaic, do this, and you'll have success. That's not going to happen. It has to come from.
You know what, Janice, I love that you said that, because I do think that that is probably the one thing we haven't talked about too much, which is, and maybe it's just an obvious or maybe it's an assumption we all carry around social media, but the way to really be effective in social media is to have that authenticity as really your guiding light and your guiding principle. And I think that's what we're all attracted to in life, are authentic people with authentic messages. And I think that, to Chris's point earlier, that when you make mistakes and you're vulnerable, that's true authenticity. It's that whole Brene Brown thing. I don't know if you know who Brene Brown is. I know you do, Janice. Chris, do you know Brene Brown? We're going to school you. All right. So
get vulnerable, Chris. Come
on, get vulnerable.
Share greatly.
So Brene Brown is a psychologist, social worker, a PhD level social worker out of the University of Texas, who studies vulnerability and has written a number of books. In fact, I believe she has a book coming out really soon now, or maybe it's out, and just talking about how vulnerability is tied directly to empathy, and that mix of vulnerability and empathy is, that's really how you connect best with people. And so I don't know if she's talked about that in social media. I'm sure she has. And in fact, she's incredible on social media. If you don't follow Brene Brown, you should, because she's a really good social media I would call her like a maven almost. She's always posting, and she's always doing, hey, you know what's funny, right? She's always doing video. She talks about her book sometimes, but she's always doing video. She's wearing like a t-shirt and like no makeup and like in her living room. And she's like this incredible, multi-millionaire author, renowned, globally known. And she's just like, look, I'm going to be vulnerable and authentic. And I think she does it really well. So Chris, does that feel connected to, can you overdo that, you think, the authenticity and vulnerability piece in social?
I think you can. To me, one of the recommendations we usually give to people is if you turn yourself up a couple of levels, I think it plays really well on social media. The example we use is The Rock from wrestling, right? Like Dwayne Johnson is The Rock. He's The Rock at 7, but when he wrestles, he kind of turns himself up to a 10. And I think that's one of the things that you have to do, is understand that the internet, your persona is a little different. There's a theory about, it's called immersive living, of how we are on the computer is a little different than who we are in real life. And that is starting to blend together a bit more. So, where we see success is the people that are a little more edgy. And I think it's great when you kind of push the boundaries of the edgy content. So, what we recommend to people is spend 10, 15% of your time really kind of pushing the boundaries of what you're saying, challenge people. I know we're talking about vulnerability, but go the other way and be that little bit more aggressive as well. Because usually those are the people that's usually where you start to pick up the traffic and you start to find your own voice. Because too many people play it safe and do what everybody else is doing. And I think you have to have your own voice online.
I do think that's challenging for all of us to figure out, especially business owners or people who are working really hard every day to find homes for the dogs in their rescue organization. It's really hard because you're thinking about other things as well. So when you bring yourself into the social media space, it's not always so clear where to land, right? I mean, especially in rescue, there's this whole idea of compassion fatigue, but I don't think that compassion fatigue only happens in rescue. I think it happens across all pet care verticals, where you're taking care of people's pets, or whether they're owned pets or not. And that creates some anxiety and turmoil. And I think in social media, and I know this is a specific piece, but I think in social that can come out a little too much for some individuals. And okay, actually, here's a question. What about groups? Like groups, and
I think I just want to speak to one thing you were saying real quick, that rescue is, there's a difference between being vulnerable and like I loved the behind the scene stuff of rescuing the animals from the hurricane, and anti-cruelty was right there taking them off. Like, that shows the hard work and what actually goes in, because a lot of times, like, you're in the pet industry, so but a regular person who is rescuing a dog who doesn't get a call back for 2 days, they don't know that this person has not been, eating bonbons for 2 days, but literally carrying dogs, washing them, tagging them, chipping them, getting all their shots. So showing a lot of that I think is, what do they call it? Breaking the third wall or whatever, where you kind of see behind the scenes and people like that. But then there's the point, and what the groups kind of leads into it, that there's a lot of, anti this group, anti that group. That stuff is just ugly. It doesn't help the animals. It doesn't, that's the stuff to take offline. If you're pissed off or something happened and there's an organization that you're not happy with, step away from your computer. Don't hit send. Don't go talk to your friend, call them, vent, and then get back on and think, what is the best thing for this animal? What is the best thing for our community? What is the best? So there's a lot of groups that I find that are hurtful and that are not furthering our cause. So just be careful. You can go down the rabbit hole so quickly on anything. And remember too, like what Chris was talking about, I feel like when everyone got into social media, people were like seeking the anonymity, oh, I can go on and join this thing and no one will know who I am and I can say whatever it is. And now all of a sudden it's like, no one knows who I am. I want to, have my personality and be on there. So, getting back and connecting with people that are going to lift you up, that are going to help you, that are going to, but make it, find groups and find things that are ultimately helping the animal. That is our goal. So sometimes you do need to step away, and sometimes, it's okay to show the reality of it, but you want to just, be a little careful of how you're presenting it.
Don't you also think, Chris, I would ask you this as well. Don't you also think that when you're in those professional groups or you're in your, foster group, I'm talking on Facebook right now, that everything you're putting out there, it's still a part of your brand, your personal brand. You're representing your company or your rescue or your whatever it is. And is there a mindfulness that we're missing from that?
I think, it goes back to that, it goes back to the key words, right? Empathy and vulnerability. Like I'm a, lifelong golden retriever owner, right? But I don't know everything. So I spend my time in a lot of groups. Today Teddy is kind of seemed like he had dry mouth. So, one of my first things was going to 2 golden retriever groups of like, hey, he's making this kind of sound. Is there something wrong with him? Right. And it's like, oh, it could be allergies. It could be, this, that, or the other. And it's like, we all have to have that kind of humility of understanding that there are people that know more, and that's the beauty of the internet, right? We have this knowledge at our fingertips, and the more we kind of go out there and reach, it can be great. And it's great for businesses too, for those with like, groomers, right? If you can make more money grooming a collie per se, then go and find the local collie groups and talk to those people and offer the opportunity to work with people. I think that's where it's like, too many of us kind of overthink social media. We think it's about touching millions of people at one time, but it's a way of kind of amplifying that one-to-one. We worked with a great doggy daycare in New York that ultimately got acquired by the American Kennel Club there this year, Spot Canine Retreat, and what they were very good at social was targeting people in the local community that were the right kind of dogs for them, right? They knew if they got sort of the Frenchies and the Bulldogs, they could have a ton of them in there. They would be hyperactive for a couple of moments and then they would sleep the rest of the day, which is perfect for that business, So those are the elements where they tapped into a lot of local groups, and they were humble enough to kind of say, hey, bring your dog down, come down and try this out. They believed in their product, and it led to ultimate success in an acquisition.
Do you think that they would want this dog there?
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. That's
maybe a little brushing, Jamie, just a little.
Do you think that the groomers to which you refer would prefer to groom my collie who's back there, or this fine specimen?
Well, that's where the groomers know. Like, I know I'm getting topped up for $100 a time for this guy.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Always in the dirt, So if there's any groomers in New York that can take Teddy, he needs another grooming on Saturday, I think. Cause
you hear that, everybody? You're getting calls out.
His ears. He's got these big fluffy ears, and he goes to the dog park, and everybody bites and drools on them. So he always has like these slobbery ears. But
all right, Janice, can you bring your little creature to the If we're all going to show off some dogs, and we all need to be a part of that. That's a nice backdrop you got there. Oh, Spencer, I think, is Janice's full name. Is Janice's dog's full name. So actually, to Janice's point,
I found two my pit bull does not fit on my lap as well, although she'll try. But this is Spencer.
Hey, Spencer.
So Spencer came from Animal Care and Control. He also needs a groom right here, but he's going soon.
Hi, Spencer.
Oh yeah.
So
Yawning. Is he yawning?
he's oh, calming signal. See that? He's doing a calming signal. Did you see? Already social media helps learn. That's right. You already learned. And licking lips is also a calming signal. And so is all of the things that my little dog is doing.
I was napping.
Oh, more yawning.
Just tired. Just look, he loves me.
That's the funniest thing about yawning. Oh, do you see that? Yawning is definitely a calming signal. It's sometimes it's a sign of being sleepy or just waking up from a nap, but mostly you have to look contextually at the situation. We'll go to dog training for one more second. You have to look contextually at a whole situation. If a dog is doing a series of calming signals, so yawning, looking away, licking their lips.
Different on Facebook Live, I think. That's why he's not used to an audience.
Oh my goodness, look at this dog. Do you see this? Okay, are you trying to get out of my arms? You're trying to snuggle. I'm going to put her back in her dog bed. She's a princess. She's a princess. All right. She really is. She's really an incredible little dog. She's a little annoyed with me right now. Okay, so I feel like we've done some fun things on, and you know what? A lot of our attendees stayed with us, by the way.
Ooh, thank you.
Wow, you guys are awesome. All right, let's see if there's any last minute questions about social media and pets. And by the way, Janice, I wanted to say one thing before we go anywhere else or before we do anything, which is at the end of the day, we are all here, Chris, Janice, myself. If for our attendees of today's long webinar, you guys are all here because you care about people and you care about pets and you care about the relationship between them. And so as you're exercising your digital media muscles and you're working on social and you're doing all these things, keeping in mind, Janice, and I do truly love that you said this, keeping in mind that at the end of the day, the individuals that will benefit from good practices are going to be the animals, and certainly to the opposite. So yeah, great mention. Okay, so on that note, I think we'll go ahead and wind down unless there's anything that my two fabulous, amazing, talented, handsome, beautiful guests have anything to add.
I want to say thanks for letting me share, and anybody local, you know, if you are a rescue, Tails has a lot of resources. We do animals for adoption for free, events for free, and I'm sure I know there's many other magazines in, cities everywhere. There's online, take a time. Like, I know it's hard to say on a Sunday afternoon when you want to be doing something else, but if you just look around, Google free online events or things, use your connections. I know FetchFind with your boards and things like that, and you have software for shelter, look and see what exists already in your community, because duplicating efforts, it doesn't help anyone.
Right.
In Chicago, we have the Chicago Animal Shelter Alliance, CASA, where we just get together and chat about things that we're doing and where we're doing them and how we're doing them, because some rescues are better at microchipping, and the hands-on. Some rescues always get free food from places, and they'll say, we have too many pallets of food, come share. So being connected and being in community, it's easy to take yourself out and just to rely on online every once in a while, pop up or not. But they're if you can be, there's a real person behind the post. So don't forget that, and that the community is, mostly full of really, really great people that want to help. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's the other thing, is you'll be surprised how many people say yes because they like to give help. So
great point. Chris, any comments, any parting words of wisdom?
Our thing is just if you're getting started into it, we like to say for the pet business, learn one, share one, right? So every day try to learn one thing about being a good dog owner, and also try to share one thing. And that can just be with one person in a message, or it can be, a post that you share on your own feed or whatever. I think, if we all become more educated as pet owners, we all become more educated about what's right for our pets and other pets, then we can clear all the problems in petdom, right? That's the way that every dog ends up in the right home.
We can solve the world's problems, Chris.
I'm such a dreamer, and all things are possible. Like I'm a man of faith, so I think if we aim small, we miss small, and we have to set our sights high to make sure that we do right. That's the art of the breeder, right? You have to better the breed, and I think a lot of people kind of stepped away from that. And I think it's important that we carry those elements on, as well as taking care of all the dogs that are unfortunately without homes. So.
Well, thank you. I love that. And I do love so much the balance of conversation we've had for the last hour and a half between perspectives and tactics. You guys are awesome. I really enjoyed this. And I really hope that this showed up well on social media. I mean, on Facebook Live rather, because talk about just taking a chance and seeing what happens. That's what we just did. So
have fun. If we fail, we'll have fun. I doubt you did, but
Yeah, whatever. It's all good. All right. Peace out, everybody. Love you. Thanks for being here, checking it out. We'll be back with next month's webinar sponsored by PetSmart Grooming Academy soon. And we'll do Facebook Live for that one perhaps too. Okay. Bye, everybody.
bye.
Bye.